Hello everyone. In this episode, I would like to introduce you to route setting. Route setting is a really fun and creative thing that I enjoy a lot. It helped me to understand climbing movements way better, and it helped me a lot with my technique. Every time I get to set a route, I feel like a little kid in the candy store because of all the colored holes, and I still get very excited every time I can set a route. And it's a really fun thing for me to do. Unfortunately, I don't have too much footage of route setting yet, since I just started out with this YouTube shenanigan. But I was allowed to set an 8A, 8A plus, something like this, and I would like to tell you a bit more about my normal process. So normally when I have to set a route, the head route setter tells me which grade this route should be, where the route is located, and which color the holes have. That's basically it. Just the grade, the line, and the holes of the color. The rest is up to the route setter, at least for me or our gym. I think that varies a little bit from gym to gym. So when I have to set a route, I go to the gym, and the first thing I do is to check out the wall and to see which angle it is. And with that and the grades I'm supposed to set, I look at the available holds. It can be that there is a lot of variety to choose from, but sometimes you just have very limited access to holds. And this depends from day to day if there is just a lot of this color or not. So sometimes you're lucky and you get a full variety, and sometimes you just have this one set that you have to work with. Also, I see if it is a top rope or lead climbing route, because this changes the holds that I use for setting. If it is an easy top rope route, I will definitely not choose any crims or any holds that are bad for the fingers, like pockets or monos or something like this. I will definitely use some very comfortable holds for your hands. And if it's the other way around, I will definitely not choose only jugs when I have to set a hard lead route. But it might be a challenge to do that. Then I think about the style the route should have when I have the angle in mind and the grade, because this varies a lot depending on the holds you have. Sometimes I have some ideas for movements or sections I want to set in the route. Or sometimes I just go with the flow and I have no idea at all, and I just see what I have and what the angle of the wall says, and I just go with it. Look at the wall. I also look how much space there is for the route. If there is only a very small corridor I can put the route in, it will definitely change my possibilities and my option to set different kinds of holes, because I don't want to cram the wall even more with these big holes. Also, I don't want to put too many big holes on a slab, because you can easily hurt yourself on these things, and that's why the angle of the wall changes the hole size as well you want to put there. So when I'm done choosing the holes and the footholds, I just take everything and put it in a box, put all the screws I need in the box, take all the gear I need, and then I bring everything to the place I want to set a route. The good thing in our gym is that the dismantling of the old route and the setup of the ropes is done beforehand, which is definitely helpful and saves a lot of time and energy, because when I want to set a route, I only want to set a route and not put up ropes and dismantle the old route beforehand. Normally, the start of the route should be way easier than the rest of the route, because you don't want to force any accidents at the beginning of the route, especially in lower grades. You have to be very careful that the beginning of the route is way easier than the rest, because the easier routes are more often done by beginner climbers and they don't have too much experience about climbing. But this varies a lot depending on the grade. But even when I set an 8A plus or something like this, I try to go a bit more easy at the beginning. So the first 2 to 3 quick draws are definitely more easy and safer than the rest of the route. Also, when I set the route, especially in the lower grades, I have to be very careful about the clipping positions. Beginner climbers are not very stable when they clip sometimes, and you want to put really comfortable footholds and handholds and a good clipping position so the climber can easily clip with the quick draw and don't fall while he's clipping. But the more you go up the grade ladder, the lesser I take care of this clipping, because when you climb an 8A plus or something, you should definitely how to clip in different positions and have way more experience than the 6A climber. Usually up to the first quick draw I set everything with a ladder. I put on the holes and just see if it works out in my head, and then when I'm done with this part I put on the harness and take all the gear I need and connect it to the ropes. So as you can see, there are 3 ropes. The left rope is a lifeline. This is basically your life insurance in case anything is going to happen with your working line, which is the middle one. I myself hang on the rope, which I call working rope now. I don't know how it's properly called, but it's the one in the middle. The rope on the right is my material rope, basically. This is where the boxes with the holes and footholds and screws and everything is connected to. And you can use different kinds of pulley systems to ascend the boxes. When everything is connected, I test the first part of the route, which I just set with a ladder. And from there on, I just go about and set the rest of the route. Normally, I just set like little sections. I put footholds and handholds, and I already have an idea in my mind then what I want to set. So when I'm finished with a section, I test it. I lower myself to the part where I haven't tested it yet, and I'm wearing climbing shoes, but these are very comfy climbing shoes. These are actually old renting shoes. I have to keep in mind that I'm wearing a really heavy harness, and I'm definitely not in the sport climbing position to climb there. So I have to be a bit more careful. Also, we use static ropes, and you don't want to have a big fall or even a little fall into a static rope. So every time I test, I pull the rope already when I do 1 move or 2 moves to minimize the way if I would fall. So I have to be a bit more careful when I test the sections. But I can already get a really good picture about the section I just set. And then I just go about and set the route till the end. So in this case, when I was allowed to set this 8A plus, I only had one very small section in mind where you get 2 really good side pulls and you have to make a big move out to the right and catch a side pull to minimize the barn door. So this was actually the only idea I had in mind when I wanted to set this route. The rest just came on the flow, I would say. Here are some of the small crimps that I use. As you can see, they are a little bit in-cut and actually quite okay, but the more overhanging the wall is, the worse they get. Here are some of the footholds I use. They are quite big, but they don't have a really good edge, and you have to kind of smear on them, which is quite nice for this grade and for the quite okay holds. Also, these are the bigger ones I used. As you can see, they are kind of okay to grab, but the moves are a bit more dynamic to these holes and away from these holes. And here are some of the pinches I used. They're really bad, but quite nice to use. So the idea of this route was that it should be a bit more bouldery, I would say. Normally I set way more power endurance routes, I would say, with not too much of hard moves or even bouldery moves. And since I enjoy power endurance routes myself, I tend to kind of set them as well. So sometimes it's quite hard for me to get out of my comfort setting zone, as well as it is sometimes hard to get out of my comfort climbing zone. So I tend to set more what I like myself, but every now and then I have to get away from this thinking and set something that I'm really not good at. So that's why I chose this little bit more bouldery and dynamic style, with a little jump in the middle and this kind of barn doory swingy move. So normally when I finish a route, the route is done. It doesn't need too much change afterwards, but in these upper grades, which are kind of my limit as well when it comes to red pointing, and it's kind of hard for me to tell if the grade is correct. I often have to change and tweak the route afterwards a little bit. That's what I did with a friend, and he belayed me so I can check out the route and see if all the moves work out the way they were intended and as I thought they would be. So I went through the route and I found out that there is still a little bit of tweaking that needed to be done, because I can climb more freely with a normal dynamic rope than I could with the static rope and when I'm setting. And especially when you have very dynamic moves, you don't want to engage yourself too much in these moves since you are using a static rope and you don't want to fall in it. So when setting a route, you have to pay attention to a lot of details, some of which the climber doesn't even notice or shouldn't notice basically. For example, you have to pay attention that the rope is not running over the holes, because you don't want to destroy them while the rope is constantly running over the holes, and you get a lot of rope drag as well, which is really not nice. So when I'm setting a route, I try to pay attention to this detail, but sometimes the rope runs a little bit different when you hang in it while setting than when you hang in it while working the route or climbing the route. And that's what I didn't realize in the top part, because the rope was actually running over a hold, which I had to change, as you can see here. So that's it for now. I just wanted to give you a little introduction to route setting, and I will definitely go more into detail about this later on in some episodes, because it might be interesting to you as well to see how a route is set and what actually is needed for this to do so. If you like this video, please comment, subscribe, and like, I guess. Something like this. Bye bye.